Good afternoon. Good afternoon again. This is Louis Fairby, Chancellor for DC Public Schools. I am pleased that you have joined us today for our staff town hall. I hope many of you are getting well-deserved rest over the summer and are protecting yourself in this warm heat that we've had most recently. I also want to thank you for your engagement over our session in June. It was a 2-week period where we tried to spend some time on dedicating more time and effort to our own wellness and health, and also thinking about how we can best serve our students in a hybrid posture. Since then, we have collected a lot of information through our engagement process from students, families, and staff. And we've heard a lot from you as relates to how we reopen strong for the 2021 school year. I want you to know that we are appreciative for your nimbleness, your flexibility in helping us not only close out the spring of last school year, but also helping us prepare for the start of this school year. I also want to know that I continue to hear your voices loudly and clearly. And your opinions, your beliefs, your feedback will continue to shape the way we think about reopening the school year. And as I think about the survey results that I've read or the responses I've seen in my email box, I know that many of you are thinking about how do we successfully open school, and hopefully today we'll be able to answer many of your questions. So I want to share some of the comments that we are receiving and the way that we're trying to balance what we've heard from our staff. I think about a comment that stuck with me when staff members said, please put our most vulnerable students first. I'm not looking for all of our students to be served in the same way, and we hope that DCPS and its leaders will think about equality. I also heard staff members say, please consider the health of not only our students, but also think about our staff. Think about us that may be at risk and the fact that we have families. I also heard from staff members who said, I hope that the Opening Strong involves teachers and prepares us to serve our students well and includes the many tools that we'll need to address the academic and social emotional needs of our students. I know you, like me, are continuing to think about all the things that we need to do well to ensure that our families and students get a great start to the 2021 school year. And even though we've had a lot of engagement and planning to this point, please know that we'll continue to listen to your voice and your perspective. Last Thursday, Mayor Bowles and I announced our tentative plans for the 2021 school year, which included a choice for all virtual learning for students who wanted to learn in that posture. It also included a hybrid schedule that varied by grade level. For our earliest learners, it included a schedule of 2 days of learning in person. For our elementary students, it included 2 days of learning in person with a hybrid approach, with also 3 days of virtual learning at home. For our secondary students who are in campuses served 612, it included 1 day of in-person instruction and 4 days of virtual learning at home. Throughout those schedules, Wednesdays was a dedicated day for cleaning to ensure that we're able to do a deep scrub and sanitizing in our buildings. But our schedules are just that, tentative. We continue to work with DC Health. We continue to gather more information on how we can open the school year strong. As we think about what reopening strong means, it means a safe return to school where we can meet the needs of every student. To do that, there are 3 themes that we've elevated from your feedback in our students and families. And that is, we need to continue to prioritize safety. We know safety is paramount. We know that we must have robust safety protocols to ensure that staff are protected throughout the school day when we have in-person instruction. The second theme is maximizing learning. We know that there's no substitute for in-person instruction, and that we want to provide the learning experiences for our students that are optimal and maximize in-person instruction. We want to do that well when we're in the building, but I also want to do a better job at what we did in the spring for learning at home. And then finally, we want to continue to prioritize equity. And that means ensuring that students who have various needs have the appropriate resources, supplies, and support to continue the learning process, whether they're learning at home or they're learning at school. And we're committed to delivering the best to our students and holding ourselves to high expectations, but we'll also continue to do that collaboratively, transparently, flexibly, and we will successfully meet the needs of our students and families during these unprecedented times. So again, thank you for joining us today and learning more about our plans for the 2021 school year. Going forward, one of the announcements that we made was that we're still thinking about the health conditions in the district. And during that time period, Mayor Bowles and I explained that we'll continue to lean on the data from DC Health to make a decision and make a determination about the feasibility of in-person instruction. So I just want to remind everyone that we expect DC Health will make a decision about the public health of the district and the feasibility of hybrid option for students to learn in person, and that announcement is expected to be made on July 31st. Going forward, we will share a little bit more about what we heard from you in terms of what we heard during our engagement period time from students, family, and staff. We'll also share what our plans are as it relates to safe and healthy environments for our students and staff, and then we'll share a little bit more around what to expect operationally. To kick us off in that discussion, we have an amazing panel today, which includes our Officer for Communications and Engagement, Shanita Burney, our Deputy Chancellors, Dr. Mistera and Dr. Kim. Again, they will highlight our plans for the 2021 school year. It's my pleasure at this time to turn to Shanita Burney, who will walk you through some of our engagement data points and also share with you our process for gathering feedback and answering your questions today. We'll have a chat box. You're welcome to include your questions in the chat box and we'll respond throughout the presentation. But please know that we may not be able to respond to all questions, but we will capture the questions from today and ensure that we'll continue to respond accordingly. Again, we thank you for joining us. And at this time, I'll turn to Ms. Burney. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Hi, everybody. Wanted to reiterate what the Chancellor just said. I'll be helping to make sure some of your questions get answered. We receive hundreds, sometimes thousands of questions, and in an effort to respond effectively and in a timely way, we summarize them by theme, and so we'll be working to make sure that that happens today. We're not going to get to all of them. We're recording notes, and we're going to get to as many as possible. And any additional follow-up from there, we'll make sure that we're circling back with you all. So again, my name is Shanita Burney. I'm the Communications and Engagement Officer for DCPS. And essentially what that means is responsible for a few key buckets of work that include press and media, strategic comms, operations comms, or sometimes we affectionately call crisis comms, as well as our family engagement and community engagement work. And so given that, we'll start by grounding our conversation today in the feedback we did hear from community members, from family, from staff this summer, and there were three main takeaways. The first one was that students and families preferred scenarios where students had the option to attend school each week rather than alternating weeks. And so that was a key, those were some key questions that we asked to folks on that survey. And so based on that feedback, they preferred those scenarios. A second takeaway is there is interest between 20 and 25% in each stakeholder group in virtual only. And so for high school students and students in wards 7 and 8, those rates were closer to 30%, according to the family survey that we partnered with the Office of the Deputy Mayor of Education to push out. In addition, we heard from you all that students in Ward 7 and 8 who get to school utilizing public transportation are also more likely to prefer a virtual option. And then the third takeaway that I'll mention today is in June, between 25 and 30% of staff and families were undecided about next year. So this feedback has been combed through, assessed over and over multiple times as we have considered options that emphasize 3 core values. The first one being prioritizing safety of our students and staff, maximizing learning opportunities, and promoting equity of access. So as we go to the next slide, and before I turn it over to Dr. Amy Maestera to talk through safety, I want to recognize all of the stakeholders who have been engaging with us over this planning period. And so you'll see some of those groups referenced here. I won't go through all of them, but it ranges from our families and community leaders who really leaned in heavily through, education councils that we partnered with, through citywide family surveys, through a variety of focus groups that we held with families that represented key stakeholder groups. We also utilized a number of our DCPS councils and advisory boards. So these folks being staff and families and community members that were part of cabinets or parent advisory boards, and utilizing those groups to really dig deep and discuss options and what preferences were, what we should be considering. And finally, our internal stakeholders. So that's many of you from staff, teachers, school leaders, students, talking with many folks through a variety of mechanisms to hear from them. As with engagement at any point, no matter how many people we talk to, there's always a bunch more we didn't get to that we wish that we could have. So even participating in live events like this, where we're getting the comments that folks are pushing through, really help to inform our thinking, and want to make sure folks know that that is incredibly important to us. So now I'm going to transition over to Dr. Maestera to share a bit more with you on safety.
Thank you, Ms. Burney, and good afternoon, everyone. As Ms. Burney said, I am Amy Maestera, Deputy Chancellor of Innovation and Systems Improvement. In this role, I support operational functions of the agency with an eye towards strengthening systems and structures that really are designed to best support teaching and learning in the classroom. It's a true pleasure to be joining you today. I'd like to start by sharing 10 safety commitments we are making as a district. These are commitments we're making to our staff, our students, and our families. In other words, the entire DCPS community. On the next few slides, I will go through what each of these commitments looks like in a bit more detail. So first, we want to look at the commitment around group size. It's very important, and we know the data shows that limiting the size of groups is critical in terms of addressing this health emergency. In-person learning in general education settings will therefore be limited to small group cohorts, and we will follow DC health guidelines as we implement these requirements. Specifically, there will be no more than 12 people assigned to any classroom, and there will be the ability for a 13th person to briefly enter as needed. Additionally, we are limiting class size for students in self-contained programming, as we know that there are specific needs of support there and proximity that we need to address, and therefore we will be ensuring that these students are part of smaller cohorts. Next, we will be looking at routines, the importance of creating and practicing safe routines throughout the school day. First, we will be focusing on masks and the importance of wearing masks throughout the community. All employees and students who report to school in person will be provided with a daily supply of disposable face masks. And we also will ensure that we have smaller masks for our younger students. Masks will be required for both adults and students, noting that there may be unique circumstances which could apply for scenarios where we need to make adjustments, and we will do so in accordance with DC Health and OSCE guidance. We also will be ensuring stringent hand washing routines and making sure that we support that hand washing is a critical and scheduled part of each day for students and staff. And then last, we want to emphasize that we are going to be very thoughtful and careful about who enters the building, again, to make sure that we're minimizing contact and that we're keeping every community member safe. Specifically, we will be ensuring that employees and visitors will not be able to enter the building without using required personal protective equipment or PPE. The next commitment speaks to our facilities maintenance. We are implementing a series of routines and practices to enhance the cleanliness of our facilities and make sure, again, that we are maintaining safety as a top priority for all of our buildings. Enhanced cleaning routines will be part of our daily routines in schools and in our administrative offices, and we will ensure also that we augment those routines with weekly deep cleaning. We will be additionally working on our HVAC enhancements, making sure that throughout schools we are focusing on air quality and ensuring that in consultation with the Department of General Services, we are fully prepared to open schools that are in support of COVID-19 requirements. Next, we will also be working to ensure that the routines that we help you develop and support address transition times. We know that hallway transition times and routines are not aligned fully with our ability to limit the size of groups as much as we would like. So we know that that's a part of the school day that requires additional attention and care. So we will be ensuring that we limit transition time and, again, touching on the small group size, that we maximize the ability to maintain those groups in their classroom settings and modify schedules accordingly to limit transitions and interactions between groups during the school day. We also know that classrooms need to look very different this fall. Again, in alignment with DC Health guidance and OSCE guidelines, we will be ensuring that we're practicing safe social distancing through the design of the space, particularly noting we will be organizing desks, student desks, at least 6 feet apart, and ensuring that all desks are facing the same direction toward the front of the classroom. We will also be establishing caps on communal spaces, both for staff and for students, and making sure that we are staggering usage. So again, we're minimizing contact. And we will also be helping students prepare for their return, making sure that we provide guidance to families before school starts, and also ensuring that we have reminders throughout the buildings, signage and demarcation on the floors, to just consistently remind everybody in the building of these requirements and help them be successful in maintaining those practices. Our next commitment is really related again to this point I made earlier about ensuring safe transitions and practices that allow for minimal contact and keeping social distancing top of mind throughout the day. We will be developing very specific arrival and dismissal procedures with you, again, to support smooth entry and exit from the school. And we will be incorporating health screenings and providing, again, that PPE I spoke to. We addressed masks earlier specifically, but also ensuring that every classroom has hand sanitizer and other supplies, and again, that we're incorporating social distancing. I noted earlier also that we are being very thoughtful about who enters and is in the building during the day. So we'll have very clear protocols related to drop-off and pickup for family members, ensuring that, again, we're being very careful with the space in the building, and also visitor access will be significantly limited for the same reason. I spoke earlier to health screenings and that would be part of the protocol. So just to give you a little bit more detail about this, we are going to be requiring daily health screenings for staff and students. And we are developing protocols and designing the space so that we are able to quickly respond to any individual during the school day who may have symptoms where we need to make sure we can isolate the individual and take the appropriate steps to ensure the safety of the larger community. All of these protocols are in alignment with DC Health guidelines, and we will be also ensuring that we follow reporting protocols, again, keeping confidentiality top of mind for our community. And then next, we will also be adjusting our meal and snack routines. Again, you'll see this common theme of really working to minimize contact. In this instance, each student's group will eat meals together, and we will be distributing meals on a grab and go basis, making sure that, again, students have individualized meals at the ready, also using strong hygiene practices before and after consuming meals or snacks. And then very important is the education and training support that we are providing to our staff and families. We, in June, began this support with training and providing resources for adults and students related to trauma, the impact of the pandemic, of course, being top of mind for all of us as we navigate this time together, maximizing learning through a hybrid model, and again, maintaining safety and security for the community. We also, as you know, implemented the contact tracing course, which was a requirement for all government employees. And this provided all of us with a basic foundation of understanding about that process and how we may support it in the community. In August, we will be providing deeper training on all of the security and safety protocols and ensuring that staff are equipped with the resources and information they need to support a strong school opening. And we will, again, continue to provide enhanced safeguards, PPE, and additional training for staff whose work may require enhanced support of students in environments where they may be in closer contact with students during the course of their day. And we will be providing much more information about those enhanced supports as we move forward. And then we end with a commitment related to supporting virtual learning. And I will speak a little bit more in detail about how we are doing so. We continue to ensure that we are supporting learning, and Ms. Burney spoke to the element of choice. We really want to understand from families what their preference is and make sure we're building scheduling and supports around those preferences, while also balancing and prioritizing staff safety and supports. And as noted prior, we will also be providing that all virtual instructional option for families who prefer to continue learning from home. And as I spoke to our 10 commitments at a high level, I also want to note that today school teams will be receiving a more detailed operations handbook, which provides very specific guidance related to all of the protocols I just reviewed. The handbook is designed to be very practical, and so it will allow school teams to really think through how to meet the requirements, but also how to customize them for their unique setting. The handbook encompasses 4 categories, which you can see here. First, we speak to safe and healthy school buildings, and you can see some more details related to what is addressed in that chapter. We also then speak to individual staff and student safety. Again, you can see on the slide the topics that are covered within that section as well. Routines and procedures, which I just spoke to at a high level. You will be able to use this handbook and think through, again, how to customize the requirements and ensure success for your specific setting. And then last, COVID-19 response protocols, which of course we all need to be well versed in to make sure that we continue to maintain safety for the community as a whole. So next I will speak a little bit more to the health screening and how we are approaching this work as we prepare for coming back to school and beginning the school year. I noted earlier that we will require a daily health screening, and we want to make sure that you know that our priorities are to really make this screening minimally burdensome for you, and also make sure that you know that the information that you share will be treated in confidence, and we will make sure that follow-up occurs in alignment with DC protocols from DC Health and other support agencies. So first, we are focused on proper planning. We know that in order for us to be successful when we come back, we all need to understand how to do this work well, and it's going to take us being fluent and being able to be responsive very quickly to you and your needs, and also the needs of the larger community. So we will be conducting dry runs of the screening process, and also specifically making sure that managers in the agency, as well as the facilitators, are adequately trained and ready. Second, I noted earlier that we recognize this is a very stressful time, and so we want to incorporate that value of making sure we are sensitive to what is being experienced by staff, families, and the larger community. We will strive to ensure that customer service is 5-star for you, and that whenever you have a concern or question, you receive support that is consistent and is respectful. And then last, again, just reiterating our focus on confidentiality. And what we mean by that is that we will ensure that screenings are conducted in a manner that protects your health information, and that we treat the information with care as we also follow up on any reporting that needs to occur. So expanding a bit more in terms of our staff supports, I want to touch on a few more items that we are working on to support, again, as you prepare to return, understanding what resources you need, and also being clear for you so that you know where to go when you have a question. So first, on the left-hand side, you'll see an overview of our recently released return to work guidance. Again, that guidance touched on the universal safeguards that we had outlined and that I've touched on in this call. And then also we touched on enhanced safeguards for unique work environments. Again, acknowledging that every environment is unique, and there are certain environments where we are going to need additional support, and we will make sure that you have that. We also touched on the protections and accommodations that are available to employees at the federal and local level, and then additional considerations for employees. On the right-hand side of this slide, you'll see what is planned for the coming weeks, what you should expect to see. First, you'll see that we will be issuing expanded return to work guidance. This will include guidance around roles and responsibilities for school-based staff as you plan out your opening day. We want to make sure that you have clarity and that you have the resources you need to address the staffing supports in the building. And then also, I noted the handbook that will be coming out today. We're looking forward to hearing your feedback and reactions there. You can certainly share your thoughts with us. We want to make sure that we're meeting the mark and that you have the information you need. So we will continue to be having conversations with the handbook in mind, and specifically for principals, we have several sessions to dig into that with you later this week, and we will continue those conversations. We will be issuing guidance related to substitutes, recruitment, and placement. We want to make sure again that we have the support needed for every building. And I noted our focus on training earlier. It's very important that we give you the information and support needed to implement these new routines, and also very importantly to know where to go when you have questions. And to that point, the last note here on this slide is that we will be requiring every staff member to participate in a webinar related to returning to in-person work, which again will give more detail on all of the areas that I just spoke to, and hopefully you will find it helpful in terms of feeling 100% ready for return. And now I will pause for a moment and turn it back over to Ms. Burney to see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Montserrat. Yeah, we're going to pause here for a moment. There was a lot of great information just shared, and want to make sure that we're able to get you a few questions that are coming up in the chat. The first question is, can you provide an update on our work with our union partners?
Sure, thank you. So we have been meeting regularly with our union partners, and certainly have been very engaged in listening to the considerations and recommendations which are coming to us from their membership. We know that this public health emergency is fast moving, and so part of the challenge is to always ensure that we are updating our union leadership and also hearing from them about what is top of mind for us to consider. And so we continue those conversations, and we also continue to review any written recommendations and reports that are provided to us very closely, and all of that input factors into all of the planning that you see here and ongoing planning that we will carry out as we move forward.
Great, thank you. Another question that has become a theme in the questions that we're seeing is providing an update on staff technology, hoping that you can do that, as well as answering the question around, will students have technology on day one?
Great questions, thank you. Yes, so I will be touching a bit more deeply on our technology plan for students in a moment after Dr. Kim speaks. To get to your question regarding staff technology, we absolutely know that having a functional device is critical to supporting student learning during this time. And fortunately, because of the launch of the ELI initiative, schools now have the flexibility to use funding that otherwise would have been leveraged for student technology for staff technology. So we're happy to be able to allow for that flexibility in a way that has not been possible before. The student technology question is also certainly critical, and as I said, we'll touch on that more deeply in a moment, but we are absolutely committed to ensuring that every DCPS student who needs a device for learning at home has access to one. And our Division of Data Systems and Strategy continues to work with school leaders to provide updates and guidance related to the device allocation process.
Excellent, thank you. The last question that we'll share with you, Dr. Maestera, before we transition to the rest of the presentation is if you can provide an update on our contact tracing protocols.
Sure. So I mentioned earlier that our handbook includes a section on exactly that. You will see in the handbook very detailed guidelines around how we address those scenarios. Yeah, we're certainly work in partnership with DC Health. They lead the work in this area, of course, and so we consult with them and determine the steps that are needed on a case-by-case basis. But importantly, I think we also know that for schools and school leaders, in the moment where these incidents are occurring, it's very important for us to be able to provide clear guidance and communication support from central office. And we heard that clearly from many members of the community. So we're very much focused on ensuring that our communication protocols and our support protocols are crystal clear when these incidents occur.
Thank you so much. We know that there are more questions that folks have. In the interest of making sure we have time to get to the rest of the presentation, we're trying to answer many of those questions as I referenced at the beginning, directly to folks in the chat, as well as we'll do some follow-up after. So now we're going to transition to the next slide, and I want to introduce Dr. Melissa Kim, and she is going to speak more around our instructional models that we're considering.
Okay, thank you, Shanita, and hello, Team DCPS. My name is Melissa Kim, and I'm the other Deputy Chancellor. In my role, I have the privilege of supporting all of our schools through our instructional superintendents. And I also get to support what students learn through the work with Office of Teaching and Learning and how we strengthen our offerings with equity and quality at the core with the Office of School Improvements and Supports. So as we explore school models for this upcoming school year further, today I want us to become much more familiar with the two ways of attending school. As you've heard, there's one way, the hybrid instruction way, and hybrid instruction is blending learning at school and at learning at home. In this model, in order to maximize safety, students will attend to schools only 1 to 2 days per week in the small class sizes Amy just talked about. The second model is all virtual instruction. Students will learn at home all 5 days of the week. This will include a combination of both synchronous and asynchronous learning through Canvas. We're still working to build out these options to clearly articulate both the student experience and the teacher experience. A few things I would like to call out. Since we are leading with safety, as both Chancellor and Amy said, we want to make sure that we're both in both schedule options. We will be flexible to enable us to pivot into an all virtual schedule should school, a set of schools, or a system needs to close. And of course, being present really matters. So attendance will be taken daily in both settings. We also want to maximize live synchronous learning. We heard this again from teachers and students and parents that live instruction and connections really matter. So we are seeking the right balance for students to support students live to enhance learning experience for students across both schedules. Another thought is that the availability of hybrid seats will be super dependent on staff availability. Our commitment to equity of access is critically important here, as we need to prioritize some students who should be there and get the demand of the seats that are available. And of course, in both models, special education and English language services will be available. And finally, we're still exploring the idea of learning hubs for students to help ensure students have support if needed. Next slide, please. As previously stated on the other slide, all students in DC Public Schools will have the option of selecting the virtual learning option, where all of their instruction will be provided virtually through a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning powered by Canvas. You're going to hear me say that a lot. In addition to the virtual learning option, this slide shows what we're planning for the hybrid learning options. The hybrid elementary school model will feature 2 days of in-person instruction and 3 days of virtual learning at home. In this model, some students will come to school on Monday and Tuesday in person and spend the rest of the week learning from home, and others will learn from home on Monday through Wednesday and come to school on Thursday and Friday. We will be using Wednesday to do a deeper clean of the school in between the two groups. Our current thinking does not include a virtual only option for pre-K families, but we are still exploring options to best serve our 3- and 4-year-olds. Next slide, please. Again, for our secondary students, all students once again will be able to choose the virtual learning option you see on the bottom row, where they will all have all of their instruction provided virtually through a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning powered by Canvas. For students who are learning in the hybrid model, they will be coming to school 1 day a week. Again, in this model, we will keep class sizes small to meet Department of Health guidelines that Amy just talked through. Shifting most of our courses to be delivered virtually for our secondary students provides students with the most access to graduation requirements to keep them on track. Next slide. So all of this is very complex and there are no easy answers. There are no ready-made models for all of this. We're exploring and creating this together with experts here locally and across the country. But what I've just described in the previous slides is certainly doing school differently than we did in the past. And I am a firm believer that doing it in the same way that we've always done it does not always mean that it's better. We spent a lot of time discussing together in large groups and in small groups and in school groups how we can collectively and individually work on ways to disrupt the patterns steeped in inequity and racism in the way we ended this school year together. We have to be willing to try new ways and be nimble in our journey to create a better way, a way that does not continue to replicate how now we live in a society where kids are systematically advantaged while others are systematically disadvantaged. We certainly will not let COVID-19 get in the way of our mission to recreate rigorous and joyful learning communities for all of our students. We are, in fact, DCPS. We will continue to engage all students in rigorous grade level content, as we know this is essential. When we lower our standards for students, we're likely to amplify the inequities in learning outcomes that most impact students of color. So, with this equity core, we have been very busy this summer. Thanks to over 180 teachers from all across our schools who partnered with us as curricular innovation fellows, we've been able to get a lot done. Primarily, they were able to digitize our curriculum into the Canvas learning management system. This makes it so much easier for DCPS teachers to create a cohesive and user-friendly curriculum interface for our students. We have also taken steps with our curriculum to address the potential unfinished learnings of last year that we discussed during Reopen Strong PD. These Canvas course companions will integrate the tools that will make teaching, reviewing student work, and providing student feedback so much easier and more efficient for our teachers. The curriculum created in Canvas will also reflect our updated scope and sequence and will identify the core lessons that we recommend should be delivered each week. We believe that should be between 2 to 4 a week, depending on the grade band and the content area. Additionally, there are curricular-based tasks in each course that will be required of students to complete and for you to grade. This is important. We need to know which of our students are successfully learning and progressing while participating virtual or hybrid, and how we can support students and you if students are not keeping pace and struggling. These tasks will be approximately 2 per term and will be noted in the Canvas course companion as required. LEAP leaders and school leaders will get trained on this and the instructional models for both hybrid and virtual learning at the School Leadership Institute. And this will also be the focus of pre-service training for all educators upon your return. If you want to get started sooner, you can certainly do so by familiarizing yourself with the technology tools by visiting the distance learning page on Canvas and take a look at the I Can checklist to learn what skills you might want to bone up on and develop. Although live student versions of the courses only become available after all students and staff are scheduled into Aspen, we're currently looking into ways to create a sneak preview so teachers who want to take a look at what these resources will provide can do so prior to pre-service. Also, as promised, we were serious about taking steps to take on institutional racism that we talked about at the end of spring. We hired teachers as equity and race fellows to review our ELA and social studies curriculum with an anti-racist and anti-bias lens. These fellows identified areas for us to address in the long term, and we're also able to make some quick adjustments that will make our curriculum stronger for the fall. We're codifying this work so we can share updates of what they've already made versus what will be longer term work as we take on this work seriously over time. Deep breath. I'm so eager for all of our kids to reconnect with you in the fall, whether they choose virtually or in a hybrid. They will most certainly yearn to process all that has happened and changed in the world with both COVID-19 and the many, many race conversations and events happening all around them. Not all kids have had the opportunity to learn and make meaning of these big and hefty topics. I'm so eager for us to start the school year together so that all kids in DC Public Schools get to engage and make meaning with you and with their peers about all of this. To support that, we have developed our Living Through History Cornerstone Unit. This cornerstone was previewed for you at the June Reopen Strong PD and will again be the focus of both the School Leadership Institute and the DCPS pre-service. The cornerstone is heavily focused on social, emotional, academic development, as we know that one does not exist with the other. We'll be welcoming students back to school in this community, building community, and asking them to make choices and think about how they would communicate to others about their historical experiences of this summer and beyond, and what they would choose to advocate for. Lessons about this unit will be provided for in many different content areas to help students learn more about this with many different adults, and all adults can take a portion in discussing this with their students. This common way for all of our students to be welcomed back and to help all of us educators learn from and process this tumultuous spring, summer, and most importantly, build stronger connections so that we can thrive this new school year is super exciting. I'm excited to have you look at it more deeper and figure out how to make it your own within your school communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. That was a lot of information for folks to digest. So we're going to pause for just a moment here and share some questions for you that have come up. In particular, the top questions that have been coming in. The first one, will teachers be able to modify the Canvas course companions to meet the needs of their individual students?
Absolutely. Our teachers are some of the best in the country, and you guys have done an awesome job over the springtime, and I know many of you are thinking about it. Lots of the questions we've received during the school year, during the summer as we're planning on it, really count on each teacher to modify the Canvas course companion. What we're creating is a strong, elevated instructional floor that you can build upon, but certainly to make your lives a little bit easier so that you don't have to create everything from the ground up. So please make sure that you do work on it, make it your own, add your own personality and flavor to it, because at no point can our provided curriculum substitute for that.
Great, thank you. The second question that's been coming up is what will be provided to schools for, I'm going to add a couple of words here, for the school reopening cornerstone, and what will school teams need to create? Yep.
Once again, similarly like the Canvas course companions, you will be receiving lesson plans for this particular cornerstone, the way that many of our cornerstones have more detail than other sort of unit plans that we provide. We have made them all accessible for different age groups of students. We've embedded some into math courses, social studies courses, ELA courses, some elective courses. So lots of different teachers can pick this up and have the discussions with students. We're excited for you to actually see the details of the lesson plans we've created. We believe we've left enough space for teachers and school communities pick up and run with it, basically. And we still needs your own sort of flair and texture creation, but it does not make you start from ground zero. We certainly embedded all of the important links to primary source documents, shared texts and readings and questions that might spark great conversations.
Thank you. The last question I'll ask, and then we're going to turn it back over to Dr. Maestera. Will students have to wear face masks?
Yep, absolutely. We know that keeping safe is our first sort of guiding principle. And what we know from all this experience in science is wearing face masks and washing your hands are the two primary ways that we can all stay safe and healthy. So we will be distributing masks to all adults and students, and we will be requiring students to keep them on to the best extent possible.
Excellent, thank you. I'm going to keep us moving in the interest of time to the next slide, and Dr. Maestera is going to come back and share some additional information with us.
Great, thank you, Ms. Bernie, and hello again, everyone. We touched a little bit on technology, and certainly as we think about equity, we really see that technology access is a critical consideration. So I'm going to walk a little bit more in depth through our planning here, and of course we're always available if you have any additional questions, because I know we're close to closing out our time together. So first, I want to note, as I said earlier, that we are committed to ensuring that any student who does not have access at home to technology or internet connectivity will have access. We also know that in order for students and staff, as well as parents and guardians, to be able to utilize these virtual learning opportunities, we need to make sure that we provide training. And so we continue to provide training for families on how to navigate these virtual learning platforms. We have a wonderful Parent University series, and Ms. Bernie leads that work. And we are excited to be able to share that we will continue to prioritize virtual learning opportunities and training through the Parent University as we head into the beginning of the school year. And then, as Dr. Kim noted, we have many opportunities on Canvas and through our other platforms, and we know that with Pre-Service Week right around the corner, you will have a great opportunity to learn even more about the systems and their functionality and what the resources available to you are as you work to meet your students' need in your own creative and unique way. Additionally, I'm super excited to share that we are expanding support in two important ways for this coming school year. First, we are working with our partners at the Office of the Chief Technology Officer, or OCTO, to provide direct technical support through a DCPS family-facing call center for issues related to device challenges. This will be launching this fall. And we know how important this is to all of you. We heard about this spring. This was a real pain point as families work to navigate online learning through the logon process to all the soups and nuts related to how to help their student access your programming. We know that it was very hard to manage all of these needs, and so we worked with OCTO very closely to come up with a solution that we anticipate will really support you in your work, and of course support your families and students. And then also very excited to share that we are enhancing our technical support. Again, through our partnership with OCTO, we're expanding our support services for the upcoming school year. again, because we know that with technology playing such a central role, more important now than ever, we need to make sure that you have the structures and systems in place to support your students. On the next slide, we'll touch a little bit on the ELI initiative and talk a little bit about our thinking and where we are headed for this year. Many of you may be aware of the Empowered Learning Initiative, also known as ELI. This is a comprehensive 3-year approach to addressing and closing the digital divide in DCPS. And so we started this work last year. The mayor committed to this multi-year approach. And in the first year, last school year, 1920, we began our rollout with procuring devices for students in grades 3, 6, and 9. And then when we were faced with the health emergency, we immediately pivoted to making sure that students were able to access devices and use them at home. For this year, similarly, as we work to support students in this current circumstance, we continue to invest in additional devices and also pivoting toward making sure that students who need devices at home can access them. But last, I'll say that while we're working to address these immediate needs, we are continuing to focus on the end goal, which is ensuring that by the end of the following school year, we achieve the intent of the ELI initiative, which is to ensure that we have one-to-one device access across all schools. On the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about, again, more detail related to what I just shared and how we've been approaching this work both last year and this year, preparing for the year ahead. Last year, I noted that we made sure that we had devices at the ready to leave the building, and I want to thank all of you who supported that very hard work. It takes a lot to completely pivot, and all of our school leaders and staff who supported that work, it was just tremendous, and showed what incredibly talented and committed team we have in DCPS. We work to also ensure internet connectivity. We know that many families in DC don't have connectivity that's reliable, or they may also need a device and connectivity. So we work to solve every scenario and address it on a per family basis. In the coming school year, we will continue that work, and we will continue the commitment to ensure that every family has what is needed to ensure access to virtual learning. We have purchased additional devices. We're excited to share that our devices this year are LTE enabled. So rather than needing to have an additional hotspot to track and to distribute, we will be able to share devices that already have that functionality built in. And we continue to support schools in making sure that other devices that are in inventory and in life cycle are also available as needed for students. And again, we will maintain hotspot connectivity as needed, working with each school to determine each school's unique needs. I'm going to move along here. I know we're getting to the end of our time together, and I want to leave some time for Ms. Burney, but just to note, we will be distributing a family technology access survey, and you can see the timeline here. We will be releasing that survey tomorrow and working to, again, ensure that we have a very clear understanding of current needs for our families across the city. And you can see some of our anchor questions there. We're hopeful that with your support, we will again continue to understand need and make sure that we are able to address every student's need for the beginning of the school year. And with that, I will turn it back over to Ms. Burney.
Great, thank you. Thanks, folks, for hanging in there with us. Know we're a few minutes over. Wanted to, as we close out, share a few additional key dates that we think is important for you to keep front of mind and between now and the start of school. And so I'm going to fly past this. We'll be sharing this deck out with folks after the town hall. The last slide here, you'll see that there is an image of a new website that we will be launching. DCPSreopenstrong.com will be the website. And we are hoping that it will launch on July 31st, which is the same day as the mayor's update on the fall school year 2021 plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Farabee, Chancellor Farabee, to do a final closeout, but just a reminder that we will follow up with a recording of this town hall, and the deck will be shared as well. Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Farabee.
Thank you, Ms. Burney. Thank you to the Deputy Chancellors for the presentations today. I'll be brief because I know we're running short on time. Just remind everyone that as we made the decision on March 13 months ago, that would be the last day of school for our students and staff were to report the following week for break as we prepared to move into a learning at home posture. I believe that our response in that time was bold, timely, and effective, as will our response for the 2021 school year will be. I remind you as an organization that we've been here before and we know how to respond. It's organizations like DCPS where we understand that we cannot rely heavily on a predetermined plan, but we must rely on our behaviors and our mindsets to respond to the ever-evolving situations that we're faced with. And that's what we'll continue to do as we prepare for the 2021 school year. We'll do that with your health and safety in mind. We'll do that with the health and safety of our students in mind. As I've shared with you before in the presentation today, we'll continue to lean on DC Health, and we will only have in-person instruction if the conditions allow so, if the health conditions are appropriate for in-person learning. Determination on that will be made on July 31st, and we will make an announcement accordingly. Also remind you that regardless whether we're in person or learning at home, our students need the best from us. They need not only academic supports, but they also need social emotional supports, and we must think about their complete wellness. So as we prepare for this school year, hopefully what you heard today, that there's a lot to be done, but there's still a lot more to do as we're thinking about opening this school year strong for our students and staff. We'll continue to be engaged with our union partners as described today, and we'll continue to outline our operations as we think about and plan for the upcoming school year. But most importantly, as I said earlier, we'll lean on our mindsets and beliefs to guide us. We'll be nimble and flexible as we prepare for a new school year. We thank you for your time and attention. We thank you for your engagement, and we appreciate your partnership. Have a great afternoon.